Well, PCTV and Ion Piscataway is taking its annual road trip down to SHI Stadium. And I want to say it's nice to see Coach Schiano here. Again, I think this is about 15 years we've been doing this center, maybe a little longer.
Maybe a little longer.
I know it's long enough that we both now have gray hair.
There you go.
So it's been a while. But this is the start of training camp is coming in for the 2026 Scarlet Knights season. And we just want to go over a little bit of preview, words of wisdom, so what the fans of both Piscataway and the general central New Jersey area want to know about Rutgers football. So, Coach, you've had some changes. Have there been any changes within the coaching staff, so to speak? How do you want to start? Offense, defense?
Yeah,
first?
big changes. Defensively, we've kind of revamped everything. We weren't very good last year on defense, and it really affected the outcome of several games. And I just felt like we had to make a change. It was time, and took a little while to find the guy, but he is the right guy in Travis Johansson.
So where does Coach Johansson come from, and what's his historical? I mean, you got to assume that everybody that's looking at this show are novices of football. We want to make them fans of Rutgers University football. Yeah. So where was he coaching prior to you picking him up?
Well, Travis was born and raised in Minneapolis, but he's coached in South Dakota. So he was the defense coordinator there for a number of years, and then most recently last year was the head coach at the University of South Dakota. Took his team to the playoffs. So
is that like a Division II school?
No, it's a FCS.
Okay.
Yeah. What used to be called 1AA, and to take the team to the playoffs was quite a feat, and I was really excited when he agreed to come.
So do they, how they teach their players out there? I'm just thinking because South Dakota has a lot of bison. Do they use them as pushing the bison around?
I'll tell you what, he's a really good football coach, and we're fortunate to have him.
So what type of philosophy were you looking for in a defensive coach? Because I know a lot of times that you would handle some of the play calling.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all about fundamentals. It's about what you believe in, and you have to find someone that has similar beliefs, right? It's got to be like in any business, it's got to be a fit. But then the ability for Travis and the defensive staff to connect with the players. And I'm sure not a lot different than what you do. If you don't have connection, it's hard to get things done. And when you do have connection, man alive, it's exponential. So that's what I'm excited about, just watching for the last 6 or 7 months the job that he and his staff have been doing.
So he, as defensive coordinator now, were there any other assistants that came in that are new on the defense?
Several, actually, yeah. So some guys from Big Ten schools, some guys from other conferences, but I think a really good mix. And you never know, right, until you put them all together. But there's a chemistry there, there's a vibe there that I like, and I think the players have really taken to them. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
Right?
So it's really interesting as a layperson looking at the football, when you go to search for assistant coaches and with the mixes of how different conferences play their strategy in football, how does that work when you personally have to obviously review and interview every individual coach?
It's different, right? Earlier in my career, I had a lot of people my age that were guys that we could bring to Rutgers. Now, most of the guys that are, my generation are either coaching in the NFL or they're head coaches themselves somewhere. So it's gotten to be more of a challenge when you have to make. So I really believe in growing your own coaches. Sometimes you need to go outside of the program like we did with Travis, and it's been really helpful. When there's change, there's growth, and there's been a huge growth this spring.
It's a little refreshing. So now on the offensive side, your offensive coordinator, who's been with you, I believe, for 4 years.
Correct.
What can we expect, even though you've lost a very seasoned QB, what can we expect from the coaching staff side on the offense?
Yeah, the coaching staff has remained pretty much consistent on offense. We made a change at offensive line coach. Jim Turner's joined us, who's really a seasoned NFL and college coach. But I really like where we are. Kirk Ciarrocca's done an incredible job of building our offense, and that's what he does. He builds it over time, right? Incremental improvement. We've gotten better and better, and I think we have some really fine players on the offensive side of the ball. 3 of them in particular that we were able to retain. Kobe Asamoah KJ Duff and Antoine Raymond.
And we're going to get into both of those
Yeah.
later in the interview. But so now we just spoke very briefly about your coaching staff. What are your impressions of the team so far, even though they haven't hit the training camp yet?
I like our team. I
Yeah.
do. I like what we've done. I think we've fixed some of the issues we had defensively. We continue to have to do that in training camp and into the season. But I like the chemistry. I like the cohesion of the team. And that's what it's about. You know, we're sitting in our team room, right? We have 130 guys on the roster. You know, when they come together, that's exponential growth. You know, individually, they add up to this. But when you put them together, you know, that's where it really gets exciting. And I like the group we have.
Well, speaking of that, the commentators and the folks that do projections when it comes to football said this is probably one of the toughest schedules that Rutgers had in a long time. It seems like the way the schedule is at home, you're going to be taking on the entire state of Michigan. But how does that, you know, when you look at on paper, like a draw, and these schedules are all put together years in advance, and you never know what team's statured or how good they're potentially going to be. I mean, as a head coach, you say, "Oh my God, how could this schedule possibly fall on my head like this?"
I love it. I think that, you know, for years, you know, I longed to be in the Big Ten Conference, and finally we're there. And what an opportunity to play at I believe, the best conference in all of college football, and that's proven to be true in the last few years, especially. Right. So historically, what a great conference we're in, and the schedule, I love it. You know, you want to be the best, you got to play against the best.
So you have, you know, obviously starting out, I believe, University of Massachusetts, and then you have Boston College, which, by the way, is the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So it's going to probably be a very emotional game because when it's happening. And then you head into, I believe, USC.
Yeah, coming
which
to
is
Piscataway.
coming to Piscataway, which is great. I mean, who would ever thought that USC would be coming to Piscataway? I did have a chance last year or 2 years ago to go out to the USC game.
I remember, yeah.
Out there. But I think some of the teams that are coming in are just like really going to put a spotlight on the stadium here, and obviously your team in the Northeast.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and that's the great part of playing in this league. Right, as you play big time college football games. And the nice thing for us is some of those games come here to our home stadium and in our hometown.
Yeah, and then you also have the reigning national champ coming in, Indiana. And then I believe you have both Michigan and Michigan State, and then University of Nebraska, I believe, is at home, which is good. I'm trying to convince the mayor of Lincoln, Nebraska to come out for the game.
Bring them out.
So we'll get her out there. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the players. The quarterback competition obviously is, to a lot of people, are very much, including yourself, interested in that. How do you think that, is it going to be an open forum to see who's going to be capable between the two players?
You know, it is, and they're really both very, very competent players. Like one of the things that people say, well, you haven't named a starter, and the reason is they both did well. And
so you're saying when they both did well, you're talking about spring training.
That's right. And, you know, had it been the other way where neither had done well, I'd be very concerned. I'm actually really excited to see the competition pick up here in training camp. And at some point we'll make a decision. And the good thing, at least for a year, is we're gonna have one who's the starter, and we're gonna have another guy who's a quality football player that's backing him
So
up.
are they two different type of style quarterbacks, or are they going to just be in the mold of what the offensive coordinator wants to see as a QB?
No, they're similar. I mean, they have some differences, but they're similar athletically. They're similar with their abilities. That's why I think it's such a close battle, right? And they're both really super kids. I mean, young men that you'd want leading your team.
So when you go to make the choice, I'm assuming it'll be happening early on, possibly in the middle, towards the end of the 30-day period before your first home game?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle to the back part of training camp, we'll make a decision. I don't know if we'll necessarily announce it or not publicly, but I think you need to do that. You need your team to know who's going to be leading the offense.
So the reason why you want to know, hopefully sooner than later, is because you want the offensive line to get used to that QB, their calling and things like that.
Yeah, and the receivers and the running backs, the whole offensive team. And it's just, you know, when you have the right guy at quarterback, he really leads the whole team, not just the offense.
I know you were very spoiled when your a seasoned veteran quarterback Kelly Mankis that was there for 2 years, who really, and I actually very much enjoyed him when he was out there. He was a very proficient quarterback, and the statistics proved that.
Yeah, he was a fine player. I just my only wish is we had him for a couple more years.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't look back, you look forward. He's down in Washington with the Commanders now, and I know he's going to do a great job.
We wish him the best of luck.
100%. And you know, his brother Dino still plays on the team, so
Okay.
that's a neat connection.
We're going to take a little break here and show some other segments that have happened throughout the month. We're at 1665 Stelton Road at the newest business here in Piscataway, and I'm going to turn the mic over to the chief spokesperson of the newest business, and please tell all the residents of Piscataway and Central New Jersey the name of your business.
Sure. Our restaurant name is Carty Roll. We are so excited here because in Piscataway we never have this kind of food before. So we are like very new to here, and we wanted to see more people coming, and we are grateful that I'm also lucky to have, because I'm resident of Piscataway, and wanted to pass on to another person who is another business owner, Neil's daughter. Yeah.
There you go.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. We're very excited to have this business in Piscataway. We've had a lot of people telling us, you know, we always have to come down to Edison to eat, but we brought all the food right to you. Street food, there's live pani puri, there's vada pav, like every place from India we have the food from. So you don't have to travel. We have right here in Piscataway. Edison people can come here, and we have a lot of options, and thank you so much for the mayor
Well,
to come
I'm not
here.
going to, part of Edison used to be part of Piscataway.
Okay.
So you're okay. But more importantly is you won't have to get on a plane ride to go over to India to get the food. You can come right here to Stelton Road, and you'll get Northwest cuisine of India and also Southern cuisine right there, and everything else in between. So I'm going to ask now, what's your name?
Vihan.
Vihan is going to help me with the scissors here. So Vihan, okay, ready? And Vihan says he's going to be the new mayor next year in 2026 at MLK.
At JA Biztown.
Okay, there you go. So you're going to help me, and we're going to count to. Ready? Come on, help me. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Well, that's your first official act as a mayor. Okay. Well, thank you. Don't forget 1665 Stelton Road. If you want to wet your tongue and eat something very delicious, this is the place to come. With that.
And the home
One of the biggest concerns that we have as public officials, not just here in Piscataway, but across the United States, you always hear that word food desert when it comes to food desert, where there's lack of grocery, lack of options for people to shop and get healthy food. Well, today we now have an oasis called Patel Brothers here.
Yes.
Let's hear it up. If you walk through this store right now, you see nothing but great produce. So much so, Mr. Patel said, whoever's the first shopper is going to get 25% off. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
There you go. Please don't have a heart attack. But I want to thank the community for reinvesting back in Piscataway Township. I know it's been a big concern of Michelle Lombardi and myself regards to getting a grocery store back here in town. But the good news is this is meeting a niche market here for a lot of people in this community in Piscataway Township. And I want to thank you once again for doing that. So would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you very much for coming nice and early on this hot sunny day morning. This is our 60th location in the U.S. It's our 9th one in the state of New Jersey. We're very, very excited about this opportunity, and we would like to thank the mayor's office for coming here for cutting the ribbon for our new location.
Yeah.
And after we cut the ribbon, we have a small performance behind us right there to show off to showcase our culture.
Okay.
These-
And one thing, I know it's been a very big concern of Councilwoman Michelle Lombardi here about health and wellness here in the town. Michelle, would you like to say something?
No, I took a little look around inside and the produce looks amazing. The store is fresh, new and beautiful, and it's definitely something that we needed here in Piscataway.
Now you don't want to go out of the Piscataway, stay in Piscataway now. That's it.
Beautiful, beautiful store.
And I got to tell you that the produce is giving my garden a run for the money right now. So maybe I might have to take some cues from you.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. And once you want to come on over here, Mr. Tell, and help assist. Well, the state of New Jersey has some new laws that are in effect now regarding e-bikes, and I think there's a lot of e-bikes throughout Piscataway Township. To be on the show here today, we actually have Sergeant Bill Clues from the Piscataway Traffic Division to talk very briefly about some of the changes in law that residents may not know or do know about, but we want to make sure everybody's in compliance. So, Sergeant, what are the big changes that have taken place in the state of New Jersey pertaining to e-bikes? I know the township did an ordinance going back earlier in the year regards to that, and then now the state of New Jersey has a superseding law regards to that. So any towns that had prior e-bike laws are now going to have to make them applicable as what the state of New Jersey have. But give us some of the highlights, what people need to be aware of about pertaining to e-bikes. And I believe there's all different classifications of the e-bikes, so hopefully you're going to be the the guru, so to speak, on the e-bike law. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to pick up the phone and call the non-emergency number of the Piscataway Police Department. So go ahead, Sergeant, take it away.
All right. So first of all, thank you for having us here. With the new law, New Jersey has classified e-bikes into multiple different classes now. So there's the first class you could look at is what they call a low-speed electric scooter. And a low-speed electric scooter is exactly what it sounds like. The maximum speed, it must stay below 19 miles per hour. And with a low-speed electric scooter, anybody can ride those low-speed electric scooters. They're treated essentially the same as bicycles in the state of New Jersey. Just like your 6-year-old could get on a bicycle, your 6-year-old...
With trainers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as they're riding safe.
Yeah.
A 6-year-old could get on a low-speed electric scooter in New Jersey as long as it stays less than 19 miles per hour. Now, with the low-speed electric scooters, if you're under the age of 17, you must wear a helmet, just like any kind of bicycle.
And I just want to interject here with the sergeant.
Yeah.
To the parents out there, we do have periodically, and I'm going to make a pitch for, we do have a, Dennis Espino, the councilman, has a road tour of the bikes, and there will be some bike helmets to be given out. You need to make sure your child, and even adults should lead by example, should
Absolutely.
have helmets on.
Absolutely.
Now, more injuries happen through head injuries from bicycle accidents. So go ahead, Sergeant.
Absolutely. The helmet's only going to protect you.
Yeah.
So with the low-speed electric scooters, as long as you're wearing your, if you're less than 17, the helmet is required. Everybody really should wear a helmet for your own safety, but if it's less than 17, it's required. And the thing with those low-speed electric scooters is, I'm sure, Mayor, I'm sure you, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community, you see these electric scooters riding, they'll weave in and out of traffic and all kinds of stuff like that, maybe go up on the sidewalk. Well, these electric scooters they have the same duties and rights as vehicles. So they have to abide by all the same motor vehicle regulations as you do and I do when we're driving our cars.
So the one that looks like a surfboard with a stick holding up, directed, they have to be applicable to all the normal traffic regulations.
Correct. If you're driving your car and you have to flip on your turn signal, they have to either use their turn signal or put their hand out to motion to turn, just like you would in a car. So I think that's a very important thing to understand, especially for parents that might be buying their children these scooters and making sure children understand the laws behind that. So.
Well, and I think this is important because school is going to be coming back in September. And folks need to know if they're planning to buy something for their child to go to school. That is very important information.
Absolutely, and then even more so if you're looking to buy something, the next class up would be even more important to understand the classification behind this, because the next class up is an electric low-speed bicycle. That's the next class up of these e-bikes. The electric low-speed bicycle is what it sounds like, an electric low-speed bicycle. It has a motor, but the motor only helps when you're pedaling. So again, you have to be pedaling for the motor to help you. And these low-speed electric bicycles can only go up to 20 miles per hour. These low-speed electric bicycles, this is where a big change has happened in the legislature in New Jersey, because these now require registration and a driver's license or a permit or an e-bike permit. That's a very big change.
So what is the age of that? Is there a different age like that for a permit or whatever, or is it just like regularly driving a car?
Nope. So it's a great question, because there is an age. So now these low-speed electric bikes, you have to be a minimum of 15 years old to ride one of these at all times. So if you're a parent and you have a child,
so basically, parents out there, you're looking at a sophomore.
Essentially, 15 years old. Yep. Yeah. And if parents out there, if you have a child that's less than 15, do not let them get on an e-bike because it's prohibited by law.
Okay.
And at 15 and 16, if you had a teenager that wanted to ride an e-bike at 15 or 16, what they would do is they would go through the e-bike permit process. It's essentially like a moped license. After they get a permit, they practice on the road for a period of time, and then they would go to the DMV, take their road test, and eventually they would get an e-bike license, just like a moped license that you could get at 15 or 16 years old.
Okay, now is there another classification on the bikes?
Yes.
Because some of these bikes I see, they're going way more than 20 miles an hour.
Absolutely. The next class up is motorized bicycles in New Jersey. These are still, these can still be e-bikes, okay? And these are these motorized bicycles. The key here is that if they have a throttle capability. The moment you have a throttle where the e-bike can propel itself without you pedaling, then it becomes a motorized bicycle, okay? And these motorized bicycles, it's classified as anything that goes up to 28 miles per hour. So before we talked about 20 miles per hour, now we're up to 28 miles per hour. So if you're riding something that goes up to 28 miles per hour, or it has a throttle capability, any throttle capability, then it's a motorized bicycle. And this is where there has been pushed even more updates, because now these require license, registration, and insurance.
Oh, so interesting. One just requires a permit. Now these, you have to actually register the actual bike with DMV.
Correct, yeah. You have to register both e-bikes, but you have to insure these as well.
Which is interesting. That leads to the whole insurance issue. Once you have to register, I'm sure your insurance carrier is going to want to know about that.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have to make sure that, again, these higher speed ones are not only registered, but they're insured. So.
All right, so you have 3 classifications out there. What happens if, say, an officer pulls over somebody that's not in compliance, especially a minor? Can that be confiscated temporarily until the parent, whatever?
Yes.
Comes?
So yes.
I don't know how the process is set up now that the state is mandating.
Yes. So depending on the age of the minor, if it's a minor operating one of these unlawfully, depending on the age, the minor could be issued summonses. Through our township ordinance, the parent could actually be held responsible for a second or subsequent offense down the line if we have a repeat offender. The e-bike could be impounded depending on the circumstances behind it. And then in order to get it out of an impoundment, you would of course have to get it properly registered, insured, all of that to bring it into compliance.
And I think that would be applicable for anybody who actually has to register the vehicle with DMV too.
Correct. Yep.
If it's not be right there.
Yeah, basically the impoundment process for this would be just like impounding a car.
Okay.
If your car didn't have registration or insurance and it got impounded, it's essentially the same for an e-bike now.
So I think those are the big highlights of the new law out there. We will make sure that the residents know further about this. We will be promoting this either through the police department on our social media accounts. One of the other things that I know we're looking at is that we're having problems. So we're getting complaints from residents about some of these e-bikes riding in the parks and creating dangerous situations. So we may end up prohibiting the use of e-bikes in our municipal parks, meaning in the sense on if there's a multi-use path or a sidewalk or whatever. I mean, not if you want to take the e-bike to go to the park, but actually riding around in the park.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like there. So we're going to have to take a look at that because, not everybody's obeying the current rules of the road, and it could become a very dangerous situation out there.
Absolutely, and that's where we're at in our enforcement of the new laws that have recently been passed. From the Traffic Safety Division's perspective, we're in the education stage. We're trying to make sure everybody understands all these laws, and we're working into the enforcement stage now. So
and I think a lot of it we're going to have to make sure that the school district knows that with their students out there, because they're the ones that are on the line there with that.
Absolutely.
So Sergeant Clues,
Yes.
I would like to thank you on behalf of the Piscataway Police Department for you stopping by the Traffic Safety Division. And as a reminder, school will be opening in September. And so parents out there, if you have any questions, feel free. Is there a contact number in the police department, Sergeant? that
Absolutely.
They can contact if they have any questions?
Absolutely. Anybody looking to talk about e-bikes or clarify anything can call me directly. My phone number is 732-562-2340.
I want to thank you for stopping by on Piscataway.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
July 13th, 2026 marked the beginning of the Piscataway Township Police Department's Youth Week for children interested in law enforcement. The week started off outside of the Public Safety Building with multiple opening speeches.
This is a good way to get a little taste of it. So listen to the officers, and parents, thank you for allowing us to have your children for the week here. And I'm going to turn it over to the director, Steph.
Parents, just to reiterate what the mayor said, thank you for entrusting us with your kids for the week. They're going to have a great time. And to the kids, you're in good hands. You're going to have a good time. Stop by the office. I'll teach you how to tie a bow tie, right? Good luck to you.
Throughout an intensive week, the cadets learned all about what goes into being members of the force. This includes, but not limited to, learning how to lift fingerprints and using a radar detector, to visits from the K-9 units and seeing a police drone in action. One of the highlights of Youth Week was the visit from the Hackensack Meridian Health Air Medical Unit. The cadets got to see the helicopter land, got a chance to tour the helicopter and sit inside it, and speak with the pilots and medical staff to learn about their roles. On July 17th, the graduation ceremony was held at the Piscataway Community Center at the YMCA to honor the hard work of the cadets. During the event, the cadets marched to their seats as a unit, and the drill instructors handed out multiple superlative awards for standout recruits.
Welcome to the graduating class of Police Youth Week 2026. Just looking at you right now, the transformation is incredible. More important than the drones, the helicopters, or the tactical gear, you learn the true definition of the badge: integrity, discipline, and community. Stand tall, make good choices, and continue to make your families and your community proud. Congratulations, Police Youth Week Class of 2026.
Through hard work, this individual has significantly improved the drill and ceremonies since day one, engaging with classroom instructors and showed interest in wanting to be a police officer. The Most Improved Award is proudly presented to the recruit, Naeem Thompson.
This award is presented to the recruit who has demonstrated outstanding performance in teamwork and leadership throughout the academy. From the beginning, they followed instructions properly and set the standard for how a recruit should conduct themselves. They had enough courage to speak with other recruits and assist them in making proper adjustments to be up to par with the rest of the class. This award is proudly presented to recruit Mackenzie Rosario.
The Detective Award is presented to the recruit who completed the scavenger hunt in the fastest time while answering every question correctly. This award is proudly presented to recruit Raphael Sharif.
I'm presenting the PT Award. This award is presented to the recruit who has demonstrated outstanding performance in physical training throughout the academy. Their dedication, determination, and commitment to physical excellence have made them a standout recruit. This award is proudly presented to recruit Matthew Oliveri.
The Best Overall Recruit Award requires a rare combination of traits. We look for the recruit who is always squared away, whose uniform, bearing, and attitude never waver. We look for someone who maintains laser focus, who treats their peers and instructors with the utmost respect, and who quietly chooses to do the right thing, even when they think nobody is watching. For outstanding leadership, sharp intelligence, and exemplary display of the core values of the Piscataway Police Department, it is my privilege as your Youth Week coordinator to present the 2026 Best Overall Recruit Award to Ashmit Karnik.
Congratulations to all of our Youth Week graduates of the class of 2026.
So who do you, out of all the freshmen that are potentially could play, who do you think stands out?
Oh, I don't know. You know,
that's a
you
loaded
ask me that
question,
every
yeah.
year, and I usually give you the same answer. I hate putting pressure on those freshmen.
Well, I can
because
put pressure. Should I start?
You can, but you can ask who you want. I'll tell you.
Well, I think it's been very hard to come up with a freshman because you don't know what their talents are until they actually suit up for the game.
That's a great point. And a lot of them now start school in January, so they've been with us for a spring.
So just for the general public, why do a lot of these players start in January instead of saying start over the summer? Why is
Well,
that?
it's a whole nother semester that you can develop in a college football program. So what does that mean? Nutrition, strength and conditioning, football skills and training, all that stuff that you get a head start on. And now it's not really a head start because most guys are doing that. So if you're starting in June, you're
So
kind of
they
behind.
graduate high school early.
They do.
And then they spend their time enrolling for the spring semester, and then they're able to see like in spring practices, and they have the whole summer, so they're not just coming in, I guess, end of June, July. They have somewhat an idea of how the team practices.
Yeah, like anything else, right? The more experience you have, the more comfortable you are doing it. I think it helps. I know it helps. And it's become, because we're talking about guys that have NFL futures, right? Not all of them, but a lot of them. And how do I best prepare myself for that if that's something I want? A whole nother, what amounts to a whole nother tenth of the time I get to spend 1/10 more here than I normally would. That's important.
And it's also not just you, but it's also your entire support staff.
Everything.
too.
Everything.
Now, and of course, they're enrolling in classes too at the same time. Obviously, you have to.
Sure do.
But which helps out. The portal, that's obviously an annual merry-go-round for most college football head coaches. What folks that were in the portal, who do you think is going to make an immediate impact coming from the portal?
Well, to me, the most important thing first is retaining your own players. So you have to sit there and say, okay, who can we definitely not lose? Those are the guys you do everything within your power to keep. Then you go out and you look and say, okay, what are the needs of this football team, whether it be this year or 2 years?
And you know what? I want to delve in that for a minute because I know you've been a very loud proponent on that, with the advent of NILs that the university needs to get where a lot of the top flight schools are, that, felt like you had your hand behind your back. Do you feel that way still?
No, and I've made mention of it. I think for the first time in my 25 years being affiliated with Rutgers, we have vertical alignment at the university when it comes to the football program. From our chairperson, Amy Towers, to our new president, William Tate, to our athletic director, Kelly Zinn, and the head football coach, you're talking to him, I think we all see winning at Rutgers the same way. And we also see how we're going to invest to get there. And that has never been all 4 layers since I've been here. We've had maybe 2 or 3, but never all 4. And to me, that's what it takes. When you're trying to compete and be a champion in the best league in college football, you need to be aligned at every step. And that just gives you a chance. But the programs that are doing that, they certainly are aligned at every step.
And I think it probably helps that with directors, and she has a little bit of experience coming from LSU with the Southeast Conference dealing with football. How hard was it to you to keep some of the existing players this year?
Big challenge.
Yeah.
And the guys that I mentioned, KJ Duff. KJ could have gone anywhere in the country. And he thought about it. Like, you can't blame him, right? And the money that's being thrown around. But at the end of the day, he made a decision that he was going to stay somewhere and really leave a legacy. And I think he has an opportunity to do that here. He's a tremendous player. He's become a big, big leader on our football team. But you look at Kobe Asamoah, same thing. Like, these are guys that could have gone anywhere in the country, and they chose to stay here. And it's a choice. Now, we can't say we're going to keep every player. That's not realistic. But you have to say, okay, this is where we're going to use our resources, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them. If they don't want to stay, you can't make anybody stay. But you know what? You can make it an appealing case, but you better have those relationships in advance, right? Like I've said many times, you don't go build a bridge when you want to cross the river.
So I think for the general public, for those folks that are not well versed in the portal, years ago, you would sign a recruit, and typically they would stay for all 4 years. Now you're lucky if they stay for 2 or 3 years. And Rutgers is not the only one. It's every university is going through the same thing. But it leads to a bigger challenge for coaches and coaching staffs around the country because of the way the portal process works now.
You're not kidding, and you
Yeah.
have to figure out different ways to teach and prepare because you got to get them ready. Some of the guys, we'll have guys that we brought in from the transfer portal that we've had 6 months to get them ready, and now we'll have training camp and we got to go.
Have you ever had a situation where somebody said, "Oh, I'm coming," and then next thing you know, they changed their mind? A month and a half later?
Often,
Yeah.
yeah, that happens all the time, both in players and in coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have changed.
So now you're seeing a portal for coaches too now?
Well, the portal for coaches has always been, but the portal for players certainly has taken off.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about a little bit about the portal. I mean, are there any other specific players that you brought in through the portal that you're expecting them to step up and play in the key positions?
Yeah, well, we weren't very good on defense, so we went out and focused on players that we thought could help. And I think we have found for Ty Morris, a linebacker from Rice, has really impressed us, not only in the way he's played, but his leadership ability. Malachi Davis, a guy from Toledo who was a really fine player. I think he's going to be a very, very effective defensive end for us. Those are two guys. We have a bunch of defensive backs that I think, without mentioning them all by name, there's great competition now. We've built some depth in the offensive line using the portal. So, and then Dylan Lonergan, one of the quarterbacks, he along with AJ Surace, Dylan comes to us from Boston College. So,
which is ironic. He's going to be playing against his former players this year.
Well, we are. We'll figure out who the quarterback's going to be in camp, but he's certainly going to be with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be. You talk about an emotional moment,
Yeah.
right? There's be a lot of reasons for emotion there, if Dylan is in fact the quarterback at that time. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of unforeseen factors that come into play, but. It just makes it just a little more complicated. It's you really have to stay on top of it, and we have a great staff that helped me do that.
So when you think about staff during the portal, did you you wanted to focus on the defense? Did you have Coach Johansson obviously heavily involved in looking at the portal with you?
Well, he wasn't hired yet.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a bit of a tough situation, right? And some of the kids would say, well, we don't know who the defensive coordinator is going to be. I said, that's a legitimate concern, but the reality is we're gonna run a defense that's based in these principles, and this is the program you're going to be coming to. Yes, I can't tell you exactly who that individual is who's going to be leading the defense, but the principles in our program are going to be what they are. And I felt we did very well in the portal. The guys that we needed to get, I think we got.
So you have 2 recruits reclassified to the class of 26. How does that work with the reclassification, and how important is that for your program? I don't think unless you're a football fanatic, you understand that. But if you're somebody who just turns the TV on in college, they don't understand how that works.
You're right, and it's something that happens a lot. Starting in January happens a lot, but foregoing your whole senior year takes a couple of things have to happen. Number one, they have to be academically qualified. They have to have enough credits to do that. And number two, the situation has to fit. And how does that happen? It's any number of factors. But you're right, we have 2 players that are going to do that, and I think it's going to be a great benefit to them in their development, and it's going to be a benefit for us.
And obviously
too.
they have to agree to that.
Oh yeah. That's and I really want them to be very much in agreement, not kind of wavering, because it's a little different. You're passing up your whole senior year of high school, but we've done it with a few. Antoine Raymond actually did that. His program, again, situations are all different. His high school program dropped football in May, so he and his mom
so they had to.
He could have gone to another high school, but I said, if you're going to go to another place, why not come here?
Yeah.
And what a great opportunity it was for him, because he got to learn under Kyle Monungai.
Yeah.
So he was able to see how Kyle did his business.
Couldn't ask for a better mentor.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So you have Aiden Gibson was reclassified, as we were talking about, 2026. How challenging will that be to allocate the touches in the backfield?
Well, everything comes down to practice, right? You go out and practice, you earn your reps. So we happen to have Antoine Raymond, who I think is a premier running back in the country.
And I believe he rushed for over 1,200 yards last year.
He did.
And that's pretty good going into the Big Ten schedule. You're able to rush that.
No kidding, right? And especially as a second-year player. But like I said, he had the opportunity to learn under Kyle. He's a tremendous athlete, a guy that really understands. And we have a great running back coach in Damir Shaw. He's done a tremendous job year in and year out with our running backs. And that's why Aiden's going to have an opportunity not only to learn from Coach Shaw, but also to learn from Antoine.
So you talked about a little bit about Carl Monangai, then you have Pacheco and Monangai as both grads and alum. Does that help you recruit for somebody who's a promising running back? Say, hey, listen, I have two former Rutgers players are now stars in the NFL at the running back position.
Sure it does. Yeah, I mean, these young guys, especially the top running backs, they all have the aspiration to go play in the National Football League. And when you can say, hey, this coach developed these players, that sure helps.
So you have, you talked prior about KJ Duff staying. Obviously, a lot of the defenses that you're going to be playing are going to be keen on him. How is that going to work out? Is there going to be somebody else that's going to sort of take the pressure off him? He was lucky last year to work with another colleague that was very good who transferred out. But he's going to be sort of there alone by himself. And now that with all the hoopla about him, obviously defenses are going to be keen on him. Not that they didn't last time.
Yeah, I mean, he will garner a lot of attention from the defense, but Dave Brock, our receiver coach, has done a tremendous job of building that room. And it's taken, a couple years, but we have great depth in the room. It's great competition right now. Ben Black, who is a tremendous player, but because, like you said, we were kind of loaded at the position, he's helped and he's played and contributed, but now it's his turn to step up and be the guy opposite KJ. And he's shown that all off season. He's had a great off season, so I expect him. But we have a bunch of young receivers that it's their time now, and I'm confident they'll step up. And we have some really good ones coming from high school the year, starting next.
So
winter.
will there be any that are actually physically play that were just coming out that they're not redshirt that are going to play?
You know what? There's two young freshmen that I think have a chance to play. Yeah, that it'll be interesting. Again, that's such a talented room now. I think that may be one of the, if not the most, it probably is the most talented room in our program.
So when you have a freshman there, what is the point of no return where they can actually have some playing time but yet be redshirted?
Well, redshirting now, and it just changed, redshirting has gone away.
Oh.
There's a new rule in college sports. It's 5 for 5. You're not supposed to call it 5 for 5.
Okay.
They don't want us to call it that. But what it is you have 5 years of eligibility to play. And whether it's from high school graduation or from your 19th birthday, that's the way it's written. You have 5 years to play 5. So now you don't have to worry about that anymore, where you can't play them past this or you can't play this.
And I think part of that, people were redshirting, but they wanted to jump to the portal. It got a little confusing there.
Yeah. So now it's much more straightforward. Now again, you hold your breath, right? Because someone will sue, and then But right now, that's the rule, and I'm hopeful that it'll just kind of be consistent.
I got to ask a technology question. Are coaches now using AI to figure out what other teams' plays that they've run over the course of a game? They stick it in the tape. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, that we are.
It's sort of like a computer just trying to figure out, they did X amount of plays this way and right there. So
there's a lot of different technology that's used in coaching nowadays. There's certain things you're not allowed to use during the game, but you use a lot of it in your preparation during the week. During the game, you're only allowed to use the headsets electronically and now the iPads that we watch the video on. So during the game, but that's the two.
So you don't wait to look at the Jumbotron?
No, we don't wait. Well, sometimes you do, but most of the time you're looking right at that iPad now.
Yeah.
But years past, there was no iPads, right?
Yeah.
Last year, or whatever.
So that was a new NCAA rule that you can use an iPad.
Correct.
Oh, so they came in within the 21st century.
Yeah, we're modernizing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I have to say, what other new rules have changed with the NCAA pertaining to actually play the game?
Yeah, there's a few, but look, the game. People want to worry and cry about what's happening. The game of college football has never been more popular. We just have to fix a few things, and I think the number one thing is everybody's got to calm down a little bit and assess. Okay, how did this before you go change a change? Let's see how the change works first, and then maybe we adjust it. I don't think we're that far off, but there are some things that definitely have to get changed. And one of the big things is the NIL, the way it works, right?
I was always the one, when I know I've mentioned to you this before, is that I thought the NCAA, I know you can't say it, but I will, really screwed this up. There should have been parameters, instead of letting the free market take control of everything, because there are teams that are going to be at a disadvantage there, because depending upon where they are in whatever market they are in, that they really didn't get a hold of this quickly on and recognize how impactful this was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, but what's fair? There's nothing's
Yeah.
fair in life, right? You got to figure it out. But I think, as you said, what drove this was the markets and the courts, and that's a rough way to do things. And we did have an opportunity, as not just the NCAA, all of us, to get it right, and we failed. So then other processes occurred, but now we have another chance to get it right, and we need to do that so we can make college football. I mean, like I said, it's more popular than ever. How do we sustain that?
I know, and now it's on from Wednesday to Saturday now. Which that would have been taboo, having games on Wednesday nights. So now it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday now.
Yeah, people love their football.
Yeah. Quickly, if I know I always ask you the question for the general public, what pitch would you make to parents that want to have their son come play at Rutgers?
Well, it hasn't changed, right? Now, money has changed for sure. And like I've said, we have vertical alignment and we have more resources now to match what the expectations are. But at the end of the day, they're still 18 to 22-year-old kids. They may drive nicer cars and they may have more money in their bank account, but they're still young people that need guidance, need to be led and mentored, and that's what our staff does. And, I've said it many times, my goal is to win the national championship at Rutgers. But my purpose and why I coach is to help develop these guys. A lot of young people God puts under my watch, and to me, there's a responsibility there. How are we going to develop these young guys to become great husbands, fathers, and members of communities? That's our responsibility. And these guys are the future leaders of our country. I mean, those are legit.
And you're also looking down the road, potentially future coaches.
Future coaches, future mayors, future everything. Yeah.
Well, we have like one of our police officers right there came out of the Rutgers football.
Captain of our team.
Yeah.
Darn right, Ray Pilch.
Yeah. We're going to close out the show, but favorite ice cream?
Mine? Ooh, that's a tough question. Store or flavor?
Either or. That you're willing to admit.
I am really an easy guy when it comes to ice cream. There's not many I don't like.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy. I got into this.
What do you like? It soft or hard?
Well, I like the salted caramel.
Okay.
That's my one. That sounds a little bit modernized, doesn't it?
Now I know your favorite dish is Italian.
Yep. Chicken scarpiello.
And your favorite sandwich?
Probably an Italian.
Okay. All right. And your favorite refreshment drink, non-alcoholic, obviously.
Non-alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah, Gatorade Zero.
Gatorade Zero, because there's no calories.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank the head football coach, Greg Schiano, for stopping on Ion Piscataway. We obviously wish him and his staff and the players the best of luck in the 2026 season coming, especially here at SHI. We want to make sure everybody's in the seats at the stadium. We want to make sure it's a sellout for every game. That's good for Piscataway Township, and I myself, as the mayor, cannot pay enough every time that the Big Ten Network says live from Piscataway, New Jersey. For PR, if we ever had to pay for that PR-wise, that would be a lot of money. But I really appreciate all the hard work that you do, Coach. Appreciate you as a resident of town, and best of luck to the players and everybody.
Well, the same goes, Mayor. We appreciate everything you do. You do a great job, and you've been doing it for a long time, so thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
You too.
Welcome to National Night Out 2026 Piscataway.
We'd like to welcome you to our Piscataway's National Night Out. We've been doing this for over 35 years, and every year it gets better and better.
Let's remember what this night is for. National Night Out is to get to know the men and women in blue out here, all of our first responders, patronize the businesses out here, and have a very good time here. This is what this is about, to get to know your community. You're here at the community center. This is what it's all about.
As we have a gorgeous, wonderful, pretty, environmentally clean community with great public safety services. Our police department is a solid organization looking out for your safety. We have great volunteer opportunities in our volunteer fire companies, And you know what? We all live together in peace and harmony, and that's the way it should be in America. Don't you agree?
I come from a law enforcement family. My mother's the sheriff of Middlesex County. My father's a retired lieutenant from the prosecutor's office, and so is my brother. So I know that there are a lot of good police officers out here, and this is an opportunity for you to come together and meet them here today, so when something is going on, you feel comfortable getting to know them, and they feel comfortable getting to know you. So I hope you take this opportunity tonight to do just that. So when I say P-Way, you say? All right, enjoy.
This evening is the evening of fellowship, and you get an opportunity to meet some of the police officers that serve this community. So have a great time. We have activities for all ages. Have a great time. Thank you.
Untucked to the winter, untucked to the summer come. Just bought a Venom, I gave me another one. I'm stacking cash and I think it weighs a ton. I'm living lavish, Paris to London. I see, no surprise they don't like me. Tell my haters to buy me. Call a chauffeur to drive me. Fashion shows fortnightly. Front rows are so blinding. You know all of these diamonds ain't the only thing shining. On the yacht just cruising. You wish you knew me. Wait, you wish you could be me like. Always in VIP, always in luxury. This life was made for me. Do it big,